We're at the business end of the World Cup. Ryan, we're filming on a Wednesday. The Boks team will be announced on Thursday morning. So by the time most people view this, the Boks team will be out. But talking off air, I think we're going to have quite a bit to debate.
Yeah.
And we have different views on certain things. But let me throw the ball to you immediately. And just you were saying you have some quite strong views on about the way you would go about selecting the team for the semi-final.
Yeah, look, ultimately, Rassie is going to live and die by his call, and again, I think he's earned our trust. Right? That doesn't prevent like a debate around this, like how he's going to go with selection. Like you alluded to, I think two players specifically haven't done their cause any favors, and that's for me is Faf de Klerk and Vrede Leroux. So the argument that Faf is instructed to kick is irrelevant here, because I agree with the game plan and the tactical philosophy. I think it's the way the Boks should play. My issue is around the execution of his box kicking specifically, and which has been like really average to poor. I was astounded that they gave him the man of the match against Japan in the quarterfinal. Like one of the forwards should have got it. They were immense on defense. Khaleesi, Peter Steff, one of those guys. How you can give a man of the match when he fails in his key performance area in the context of the game plan is like beyond me. Like I don't understand it. Added to that, the potential replacement, Herschel Jantjies, offers you as good. I mean, you lose very little in Herschel Jantjies coming into the team. So I think, however Rassie decides to go is how he decides to go. I hope Faf, for the sake of the Springboks, is able to rectify his the chronic issues that he's got with box kicking. But I'd go with Herschel Jantjies there. Vrede Leroux, what does it give you? Like if you really look at his form throughout this World Cup, what does it give you? It gives you a reputation of having an X factor, right? He gives you the known ability, aerial ability. And he's on his day. He's a good tactical kicker, return kicker specifically. But when have those things been in evidence? I haven't seen them. I would pick Warwick Gelant. People are going shift Chisholm Colby to fullback and bring somebody else in. If you pick Gelant as your backup fullback, it means that you must have confidence in him when you need to make a change.
Yeah.
So those are the two key changes that I would make.
Yeah.
Whether Rassie goes that route is irrelevant. And he's earned our trust, like I said. But I don't think those two players specifically offered us anything significant in this World Cup to not justify this conversation or this debate at least.
Yeah.
What's your view?
I think I hear your points. Where I would probably differ is that I actually thought, while I would agree that he shouldn't have been man of the match, I would have gone for even Damien Dialende or Siya Khaleesi. I think Khaleesi particularly was my man of the match. He had a huge game on defence. But for me, Faf offers what maybe a lot of people don't really appreciate on defence. I think he's a very key member of that Boks defensive unit. We're gonna look at his kicking. I understand the frustration around the inaccuracy of some of his box kicks. Undoubtedly, he's going to plan. It's never been a strong point of his. But for me, the alternative would be a complete rookie being thrown in a semi-final in Herschel Jantjies, who I think is a star of the future, but I would be very hesitant to do it for a semi-final at this point. And Cobus Reina, who's the third choice and doesn't have a reputation with a strong kicking game either. And then Vrede Leroux, I totally understand. He had a nightmare performance. I'm sure he would have known that. But I just think at this point, I can't see the need to risk losing that experience and that left boot. He's got to up his game, and I think we've got to trust Vrede to know that he's been underperforming the whole World Cup, and to back him for this major game.
Yeah, I don't buy that. That's like a conservative view in my opinion. I think back to a player like Frans Steyn in 2007 when Jean de Villiers got injured. Frans Steyn was a complete rookie. Granted, he was a special talent. Came into that side and was one of the players of the tournament. I can't see the sense in taking players to the World Cup if you don't think that they can do a job for you. Then take experienced replacements. So from a selection perspective, I can't justify that, you know. So I hear what you're saying. The safe option would be to back experience and and to go with the players who have been there and kind of done that. But I'd be braver than that, man. I can't look back now and you lose to Wales and then you go like, maybe we should have given the kids a chance. And I would go that route.
Yeah. I think we can move maybe to look at a video clip, because the point I was making about Faf and the defensive role he plays is when he starts shooting and cutting down the time and space that people have around the fringes. But for me, this video clip we're going to look at is what the Boks are all about at the moment, and it's based around how they use their defense as a weapon. So here the Japanese had a 5-meter lineup from the try line, but by now the game was won. And so the Boks will go to a route that we've seen particularly often with Faf de Klerk kicking from the base of a ruck. And I understand this is where the frustration of a lot of people stems from. So here it's a kick, maybe, again, he exits and he doesn't put the ball out. But whether or not that was planned or whatever the case may be, I think the Boks generally are quite happy to back their defense and their defensive organization to counter whatever the opposition is going to offer when they've received that kick. So it stays in. Japan look to counter-attack, and we can see what the outcome is for them. They met by a massive defensive wall. Again, the Boks use that pattern to force the player to go back in on the inside channel, and that's generally where the Bok forwards hunt in a pack. Peter Steff provides that example, shooting out and making the hit, preventing the Japan player from getting over the advantage line. Then Vincent Koch gets in, Malcolm Marx expertly slows down the ball, and Japan have lost any momentum. So for me, there's Faf's kick, maybe not pinpoint, but the Boks are prepared prepared for the consequences and have the defense to stop the counter-attack.
Yeah, so again, I'm going to disagree with you. So like everything you're describing is technically correct, right? And they go on to score a try from the turnover that they create.
We can look further now.
But even if we take a step back to Faf's kick, so you've got to play what's in front of you. I get that. And Japan, like we said last week, like the Springboks are 20 plus points better than Japan, and they ended up being 23 points better than Japan. But they could have been 40, but that's like a discussion for another day. But New Zealand or Wales, or hopefully New Zealand in the final or England in the final, are not going to be set up like Japan was set up to receive that kick over there. And in addition to that, they've got more game breakers than Japan has. The two wingers are excellent. I really think they're world class. But New Zealand have a backline full of game breakers. Wales less so, but definitely have some X factor in their backline there. They would then exploit an opportunity, in my view, better than Japan was able to do there. So yes, the Springboks pressed them from the outside, and you saw the winger run back inside to the defense, and that was like exactly what the Springboks want you to do. But the quality of the opposition here versus the quality of opposition in the semi-final and final, there's like light years between them. And I think that is a dangerous kick for us against Wales, against England, or against New Zealand, depending on how far we go.
Yeah.
So for me, that's concerning. But the principle of what you're saying is exactly what the Springboks are looking to do.
Yeah.
And the execution, and you're going to play it on now, of what happens post-turnover is phenomenal.
Yeah. So for me, it's just the Boks back in the defense. Defense is their weapon, and it's what they want to rely on to be able to do what we see in this next phase of play. So the ball is incredibly slowed down there by Marx. And again, just look at the rush from the Bok defenders. First, the hit came from Francois Lowe, and then brilliant from Sia Khaleesi. He wrestles for the ball. He stays upright. He shows great strength, and the ball pops free. And so from defense, the Boks now shift to attack. And this, although Pollard's come in for quite a bit of criticism, I think he shows his value in what he can do. So he reads the play perfectly.
Great read, yeah.
He comes onto the ball at pace, makes the break, and a nice early pinpoint pass through to Willie. Willie's a player who obviously was under quite a bit of criticism. He makes the correct decision, early pass to Mapimpi, who's been absolutely brilliant, and over he goes for a try. So for me, this move starts right back from a Japan attacking line out, 5 meters from the Bok try line. Turnover at the line out, strength of the Boks, kick from Faf de Klerk, defensive play that leads to a turnover, and the Boks go and score on the counter. So that's a 100-meter turnaround.
Right.
For me, I know it's not going to always work out that perfectly, but that is the Boks in a nutshell for me.
Yeah, absolutely. That, like I said, That's kind of the Boks' tactical philosophy right now. That is very similar to watching the Stormers in 2010, right?
Yeah.
Again, a side that was coached by Alice Tukitzia, but Rassie Rasmus was the director of rugby at the time. Jacques Nienaber, defensive coach. So that reminds me of the way the Stormers used to play, and it's ironic that Flo is there because he was this kind of the cornerstone of the defense then.
Yeah.
And they used to hit you on the counter like this all the time.
Yeah.
And they were a hard side to beat. So I'm not saying the Springboks are going to be pushovers. By no stretch of the imagination. The defense has been unbelievable. But I just think that the better teams, the Waleses, England or New Zealand, have keys to unlock that defensive strategy or that tactical strategy better than Japan does.
I understand that Billy is also the sort of player who at times for me has looked vulnerable under the high ball and he hasn't added the attacking spark. But I think sometimes there's an element of his communication to players and the way he reads the game that is not noticed because it's all off the ball. So in the lead up to that try, for example, you can see Pollard shouting to him. He had the ball, he had the awareness to look around. Pollard shouts to the corner and he turns away from the inside pass that could have gone to Pollard and he gives it to Mapimpi early. So it's that sort of, I think that's the experience of a Willie over a Gelant.
Right.
That is kind of the reason why I still go in a big match semi-final. I would go for him and I would go for Faf. I understand you've made a case for the alternatives that a lot of people do as well. I do think probably the conservative view is mine, and I think that's the conservative route Rassie will go as well.
Yeah, agreed. And you'll live and die by that decision, which is fine. You want to. You want to, if you succeed or you fail, you want to succeed or fail on your own terms, right? And he's got to back what his conviction is. And that's absolutely fine. Doesn't mean because my view, or maybe if my view is shared by like others, that's the right way to go. Because ultimately he's accountable for the result. But there's got to be contrary views in our game, otherwise it's going to be boring, man.
Yeah. I think let's wrap, Ryan, and just go through the two semi-finals and how we see it playing out. So for me, All Blacks England is worthy of a final. I think those are two incredible test nations. They've got two incredible coaches behind them, Eddie Jones and Steve Hansen already. They're ramping up the verbal warfare this week. I just think it's going to be an epic test match. Really, the intelligence of the two coaches is going to lead to both teams looking to break down weaknesses. Then there aren't many in either the England or the All Blacks game. So I think that's going to be an extremely tight one. I'm almost divided in terms of picking which way it will go. For me, the only factor I can see maybe being the decider is just the experience of the All Blacks team and having had as many players who've gone through 2 World Cups, often a lot of World Cup winners there. I think that'll be the decisive factor, that experience in the big moments towards the end of that match, and that's why I think the All Blacks might just edge it. But having said that, as Eddie Jones mentioned in the week, all the pressure's on the All Blacks. Will that have an effect? I don't know.
I don't think so. I think the All Blacks have been the best team at the tournament to date. England haven't been far behind, but I certainly think that the All Blacks are better in the key facets of that game. You mentioned the experience, particularly in the pack. Those guys have been through the Mensa. They know what it's like to win a World Cup and to get through tight games in a World Cup. And then their backline, the players that they've introduced there have been phenomenal. I mean, when you look at the benches, I think that'll be a decisive kind of aspect of the game as well. In addition to the experience that you mentioned earlier on, when you got Sunnyball coming off your bench, I mean, it says something about the quality and depth of your squad. So I think those two facets of the game particularly will help New Zealand edge it. I think they're probably 7 to 10 points better than England.
Yeah,
maybe a little bit more than that, but I think they'll come through it.
Sure. And then obviously the big one Sunday, Boks against Wales. For me, there's no way the Boks can lose this game. I think Wales are, 6 months ago,
Watch
maybe
yourself,
even less. I just feel that Wales haven't quite come into this World Cup on that peak. For me, they peaked a while back when they went through that unbeaten phase. If there is going to be an upset, and if I am to be proven wrong, I think it would come through the Boks' inability to perhaps handle the Welsh kicking game. And I think that's what they'll look to do through Dan Biggar. And I think he'll put in those kicks and test Philly, test the wingers with diagonal kicks and cross kicks. If the Boks fail to cope with that, and Wales can capitalise on every opportunity that comes through that approach, then maybe there could be a shock. But based on everything else we've seen at this World Cup, I just think the Springboks have the organisation and the game plan to go and get a win of it by between 10 and 15 points. I think it should be comfortable for them if we're looking at just the past few weeks and the quality of the two teams.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of key points from my perspective. Skalk Berger said something really interesting in the post-match analysis on Sunday. He kind of he mentioned that Wales won't give the Springboks nearly as many lineouts as some of the other opponents in the competition have. He predicted that there'd be 4 to 5 per half, which is a little by Test rugby standards. So I suspect that aspect of the game, which is the Springboks, like a key strength of the Springboks, will be nullified to a degree. So as a kind of a carry on from that, how do the Springboks then deal with the ball in time play? It's going to be physically demanding on them, particularly the forwards who are the fulcrum of that defensive system. So how do they deal with that ball in play time, which is likely to be greater than any of the other opponents that they faced in the competition? Again, your bench becomes important there. Having said all of the things that I did about the Japan game, I'm confident that outside of the tactical kicking aspect, which I hope comes right, there are things that separated, that was the difference between a 23-point win and a 43-point win that can be easily remedied. Like, there were often times where we had an overlap on the outside and a pass goes forward, or there's a knock-on, or there's a bad decision made. Mapimpi, for example, when he burst through, was tackled and he tried to flick it up, and when he should have just held on and there was a massive overlap on the outside. Those things are easily fixable. So on that basis, on the basis that I think the Springboks will cope well with that ball in time play, despite not having a key strength of theirs available to them as often, I think they'll cope well with it. Their bench, particularly from a defensive perspective, when you bring a player like Flo on, it just amplifies your defense even further. And so I think they'll have enough there. And then I think they'll remedy some of the other issues that they had with finishing. My big concern is tactical kicking, and I hope that comes right. But despite that, I agree with you. I think they're comfortable winners over Wales if they play well and remedy all of those facets of play. 15 points for me as well.
All right, great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Ryan. Yeah, plenty to debate, but let's look forward to two great games and undoubtedly the four best teams in the world going head to head.